Welcome to Stochastic MLB Live Before Lock. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. I'm here with Adam Scherer. You can find him on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And this show is sponsored by SoRare MLB, which is a collection of digital trading cards and an NFT-based free-to-play baseball game. Adam, just 4 games to talk about today. Are we going to be able to? How are the allergies today? I guess first of all, how are the allergies doing?
They're a lot better so far today. Knock on wood.
Yeah, I guess it's pretty early. You never know how things are going to go. But I know you were struggling to breathe yesterday. I think that was part of the reason we went fairly quickly through things. Hopefully you're feeling a little bit better today because we got to make it through. I mean, we don't need to go a full hour, but we need to spend some time on this 4-game slate. Have you taken a look at it at all?
A little bit. I'm in the middle of building lineups now, or getting, I guess, restarted because we just got all of the rest of the lineups in. So sort of like I have a general idea of the slate. Don't know yet exactly where I'll be going, but obviously we'll figure that out during the show.
Yeah, pretty nice to have all the lineups in before we start the show. That's we don't get that very often where we just know all of the lineups going in. Well, we can.
It should save me from ignoring you towards the end of the show.
That'll be perfect. Yeah, if we just don't ignore each other, the show is going to be just amazing. It'll be the first time ever we just listen to each other the whole show. All right, we only have 4 games to talk about. I don't think we'll have any trouble getting through them, but we can just jump right into it. Actually, let's talk strategy just for a second here because we do have a 4-game slate. We talked about it yesterday a little bit about like pitchers versus bats. Do you do anything different in terms of, or looking at this slate, do you think you're going to do anything different in terms of like stack sizes or pitchers, batters versus your pitcher, etc.?
So I have it right now. I'm planning on being okay with like 1 hitter against my pitcher, but you still have 8 offenses. I don't really want to be like mini stacking against my pitcher. I am probably going to incorporate some more of the smaller stack sizes, like instead of exclusively being, all the versions of 5-mans and then just 4-4 and 4-3, probably mixing in a little bit more like 4-2-2, just to, get a couple, get some different looks of lineups.
Okay. Sorry, in a conversation about making sure that I've got the right sponsor here. Pretty sure I do. I think it's going to be the same sponsor that we've had every day. But yeah, anyway. All right, let's jump into it game by game a little bit. We've got the Angels and the Orioles. Tyler Anderson on the mound for the Angels. Tyler Wells for the Orioles. Do you want either of these Tylers?
Pretty interested in Tyler Wells. He's been solid enough this season, and it is a 4-game slate, so your options are somewhat limited. So he looks pretty interesting to me. Refreshing the top stack and top pitchers tool now, but he's just a decent option. 9,200 is a pretty healthy price tag, but again, it's a 4-game slate, so you're going to have limited options. The Angels have a 3.8 implied run total. Lineup is not bad, but seems like it's missing something. I don't know. Chad Wallach is hitting 6th. That's not where you normally see him. Granted, the game I went to the other day, he did homer and then fly out to the wall. So I don't know. Maybe he's figured out how to hit. But yeah, the lineup looks a little bit weaker than usual. I can't place who's missing, but they have Trout, they have Ohtani, they have Renfroe, they have Drury. So they still have their main, middle of the order in there. No Taylor Ward today is one name missing. Moniak's in there instead. But 3.8 implied run total. Wells can go deep into games. That's one thing that we certainly like about him from a DFS standpoint. Strikeout stuff is okay, nothing special, but on a 4-gamer, he's just going to look like a pretty solid option. On the other side for Tyler Anderson, 6,700. He's not bad at limiting power, but he's also not very good at getting strikeouts. I do typically, if I'm going to take pitchers against the Orioles, I do prefer taking left-handed pitchers. You get Gunnar Henderson on the weak side of his split. You get just a weaker lineup in general where you have James McCann hitting 5th and Ryan McKenna hitting 6th because Cedric Mullins isn't in the lineup at all. But, again, it's a 4-game slate. So if you go to Anderson a little bit for value, I think that's fine. But I still am not going to be too excited about getting him just because of the lack of strikeout stuff. We have him right now at the very bottom of top 2 pitcher percentage at 13%, 17% projected ownership. We have Wells coming in with a 26% chance of being a top 2 pitcher at 30% ownership. So, again, I'm going to prefer getting to Wells. If you need savings and you go to Anderson, I guess that's fine. But Wells would be the one that I'm more inclined to get to.
Okay. What about the bats on the other side of the game?
Yeah, so the Orioles are always a team I'm happy to stack. You do get a bit weaker lineup today, but they're still second in top stack percentage at 15.5%. You do get McCann at 2,500 as a cheap catching option if you can't afford Adley Rutschman. McKenna's 2K flat. Decent chance he gets pinch hit for later in the game, but if the Orioles are playing from ahead, he could stay in just because he is very good defensively. Hayes is in there leading off. Mountcastle's going to look really good at 4,500. So Orioles look pretty good. On the other side, I think it's a little bit more difficult to get to the Angels, but you still have Ohtani, you still have Trout. Those guys are obviously going to be pretty good plays. Angels are 4th in top stack percentage right now at 12.5%. 12.5% ownership as well. If you sort by stack score, pretty much like this entire slate is like almost every team on this slate is the same. But the Angels are very slightly coming in at the very bottom in stack score. That's the metric that rates a stack by a combination of top stack percentage and top value. They're coming in at the very bottom. But again, you have their stack score is 10.4. The Rays are 5th on the slate at 10.9. You don't have a lot separating most of these teams.
As noted in chat, Taylor Ward is out today. Does that affect your stacking at all?
Yeah, I noticed he was out, but no, it doesn't. Doesn't matter. You're getting a cheaper Mickey Moniak. There is the chance that you get Taylor Ward hitting for Moniak later in the game, I guess.
Larry says this show will be really quick. If I'm listening to you, this show will be really quick. Then Adam won't have to repeat his top 4 multiple times. I'm still going to make him repeat his top 4 multiple times. That's how I test him. I got to make sure that Adam remembers exactly what he said.
Truly not what I said.
Yeah. All right. How on that note, how would you rank the 4 sides of this game?
Wells 1, Orioles 2, Angels 3, Anderson 4.
Okay, perfect. We will move on to the second game of the slate. Tampa Bay at New York Mets. We've got Taj Bradley on the mound for the Rays, Tyler McGill for the Mets. Any interest in these pitchers?
Yeah, well, not Wells. McGill at 7,200 is a decent price. He's pulling 20% ownership. Obviously, a very, very tough matchup against Tampa Bay, but that price tag has dropped to make up for it at least somewhat. He's only striking out 17% hitters this year. He really hasn't been good. 12% walk percentage, 5.24 FIP, over a home run allowed per 9 innings. On most slates, I would very easily just pass on Tyler McGill here, but with it being a 4-gamer, still going to show up some, especially if you're playing multiple lineups. On the other side, Taj Bradley is back up from the minors. $9,100 price tag, 17% projected ownership, highly regarded pitching prospect, and it's for the Rays. So chances are he's going to pan out because they always pan out for the Rays. He's 22. He did debut earlier in the season, made 3 starts, went 15 1/3 innings. In those 3 starts, he struck out 38% of hitters. Obviously, you're not expecting that to continue. Strikeout numbers at AAA this year were actually not particularly impressive. 5 starts there, 16 innings pitched. He only struck out 16.7% of hitters. Last year, AAA only struck out 21.5%. So, certainly expect those strikeout numbers in the majors to come down. But this is a top 100 prospect in baseball. Does have good stuff. He is pretty expensive at 9,100, so that makes him a little bit more difficult to get to. I think mostly he's just like an interesting tournament pivot to somebody like Tyler Wells. I prefer Wells, but Wells is $100 more. 26% to be top 2. Bradley's 22%. So not a big gap there, but you're getting basically double the ownership coming into Wells at 30% compared to Bradley's 17. So that's a spot where, like I don't love the matchup against the Mets. I don't know still what to make of Bradley at the major league level at this point, but he shouldn't be getting half the ownership of Tyler Wells.
Yep, makes sense. Play the ownership game a little bit there. All right, there's something. Oh yeah, SportsWiz says Cleveland lineup is beyond dog shit today. No, Jose Ramirez on the IR or something, right? Didn't he? Am I remembering that correctly? So yeah, it's going to be
he's on the injury list.
Pretty big downgrade there. Pat Fitz asking if we can do tiers. Maybe we will do tiers at some point. We should have more time than usual. Yeah, so we can probably do some tiers today. All right, what is your level of interest in Tampa Bay or New York Mets bats?
Definitely interested in both sides. I'm a little surprised Tampa Bay is not higher in stack score, but I think it's because of the value component. We have Tampa Bay with the highest top stack percentage. So if you can afford them, they are going to look pretty good. No Yandy Diaz in the lineup once again today. Makes it a little bit weaker, but it's still a solid lineup. You're still facing a pitcher in McGill who, like I said, has struggled this year. 229 expected ISO to righties, only 128 to lefties. You go back to last year, 196 to righties, 167 to lefties. So that's kind of been a trend for him over the last couple of years, is giving up more power to same-handed hitters. That's not to say that you can't look to Josh Lowe or Brandon Lau, but definitely don't be shying away from a Rosarena. Harold Ramirez is cheap and hitting third. Paredes is cheap and hitting fifth. Those guys are going to be nice ways that you can offset the Josh Lowe or Rosarena, Brandon Lau salaries, but 4.5 implied run total looks pretty nice for them. For the Mets, it's a little bit more of a wild card. We don't not that we totally know what we're getting from Tyler McGill. He's still inexperienced, and he's been worse this year than last year. But Taj Bradley, we really have no idea what to expect from this guy other than knowing that he's a highly regarded prospect. So there is some volatility there. You do still have a 4.5 implied run total for the Mets. They're coming in third in stack score. They're quite a bit cheaper than Tampa Bay. 12% chance of being the top stack, 13% ownership. So ownership pretty much in line with where it should be. You have a pretty expensive Alonso at 5,100, but other than that, the most expensive hitter on DraftKings is Lindor at 4,600. So this is a team that you should be able to stack pretty easily and still get to good pitching. Brett Beatty looks like a very good value, hitting fifth at 3,200. Jeff McNeil, 3,800, hitting third, looks pretty good as well. So I do like both of these sides. I think I would go to the Tampa Bay side first if I can afford it.
Okay, and then how would you rank the four sides of the game?
Rays 1, Mets 2, Bradley 3, McGill 4. But again, I do specifically like the Bradley versus Wells pivot in lineups where you need to save some ownership.
Okay, yep, makes sense. Larry C pointed out it was Jose Ramirez is on the bereavement list, not the IR.
Yeah, that's
right. All right, now time to talk a little bit about our sponsor, SoRare. We've made it through half the slate already. It's only a 4-game slate. We're through 2 games, so we'll take a second pause. Looks like I'm not cashing once again in SoRare. Adam only got 16 points out of Spencer Strider. Just been a kind of a bust lately for me. Spencer Strider not really working out. Made the mistake of going with Syndergaard instead of buying a new pitcher for that starting pitcher spot, but otherwise the bat's finally doing okay for me. My pitchers just kind of let me down. But if you are interested in playing SoRare, you can play for free. When you sign up for SoRare, you're going to get the choice of several different cards. You're going to get the choice of, they're going to show you a number of different common cards, and you're going to get a salary cap when you sign up for those common cards, and you just select common cards within that salary cap. It's more, I did it like it was DFS, like I was doing a dummy lineup when I signed up. That's a mistake. You should give it just a little bit more thought than I did, because these are cards that you're going to keep, and it is kind of hard to get new cards in the common contest, but it's a really fun contest. And again, it's free to sign up at SoRare. I just put the link in chat. It's already in the description of this video as well. If you're interested in SoRare, please do use the link that I just put in chat, MLB SoRare. In particular, again, you're going to get free cards when you sign up, and then you can use those in contests where you can make real money. You can win cards that are worth real money, I should say. There's not, in these common contests, you're not going to get like cash prizes, but you can win tier 1 of these limited cards, which are worth, hundreds of bucks. So you can win, real money playing for free if you go and play those common cards. Here, I'll show you the upcoming contest. Yeah, so if you play in the common all-star contest or the minors contest, they have up to 200 of these limited cards up for grabs for the top 200 spots, or 100 in the common all-star contest. And these are free to join. So when you sign up for SoRare, you're going to get some free cards. You can join these contests right away without spending any money. But then, of course, if you decide to do what I did and get into the limited contest as well, not particularly expensive. Most cards are, you can find like good bats for like $8 a lot of the time. Pitchers, depending on who it is, you might have to pay up a little bit more than that, but it's usually like $50. There aren't that many cards that you have to spend more than $100. That's only if you really want like some of the best players in the game. So really, really fun contests. I've been really enjoying it, even though I haven't had much success in the MLB game. It really is a fun way to play, and this is probably the way DFS is going. This is not DFS, but the way fantasy sports, I should say, is going. Fantasy sports for real money, in like GPP type formats. Kind of the direction that things are going is these types of games where you have to buy the cards, then you get to keep the cards and play them in multiple contests rather than playing an entry fee. And again, all of these contests, once you have the cards, it is free to enter these contests. Of course, you do have to have the cards, which in the limited contests, you have to either win or spend up for them. But really fun way to play fantasy baseball, new type of fantasy baseball. Highly recommend checking it out if you haven't already. Again, it is free to play the common when you sign up. So check that out. All right, Adam, we have 2 more games to get through. We're already halfway through the slate. We'll wait to do tiers until after we've been through the 4 games. So for now, we'll just keep chugging along through these 4 games. Washington at Miami up next. Trevor Williams on the mound for the Nationals. Uri Perez for the Marlins. Any interest in these pitchers, Adam?
Yeah, Perez, from a talent standpoint, for sure, he is one of the better pitching prospects in baseball. Made his debut the other day at, I believe, like 20 years and, I don't know, 20 days old or something like that. Just incredibly young, incredibly talented. He's reasonably priced at 7,700. We have him second in top 2 pitcher percentage. Good matchup against the Nats. Just a relatively weak offense. 33% chance of being top 2, 31% projected ownership. Just a very good or very talented young arm. Obviously, there's plenty of volatility in how he's going to perform early in his career, especially at such a young age. But at AAA this year, or sorry, at AA this year, 6 starts, 31 innings pitched, 35.9% strikeout percentage, carried a 34% strikeout percentage through 75 innings at AA last year. In terms of projections going forward, Zips has him with a 25.4% strikeout percentage, 4.2 FIP. The bat's at 22.9%, 4.6 FIP. Again, the bat typically is a little bit more bearish on everybody that doesn't have major league experience. So those are still pretty solid numbers relative to like what you'll see a lot of the time in that projection system. So just looks really good. On the other side for Trevor Williams, he's more difficult to get excited about, but he is only 6,400. So for example, if you are going to a team like Tampa Bay, maybe you use Williams to offset some of that salary. One thing that is pretty nice for him in this spot is that Miami is running 6 right-handed bats out there, and 4 of the top 6 are right-handed, 5 of the top 7. So 6 of the top 8. So you're getting, the righties weighted towards the top of the order. And Trevor Williams does have some of the most drastic splits since last year that I've ever really seen. So this year he hasn't been very good against anybody. Righties are striking out 20.5% of the time, lefties 13.5%. So still much better against righties in that regard. But a 248 expected ISO to righties, 267 to lefties. If you go back to last year, though, 29% strikeout percentage since the start of the year against righties, only about 11% against lefties, 236 expected ISO to lefties, 156 to righties. So again, it's not that righties never, have success against Williams, but they do strike out at a much higher clip. They are in Miami, which is a favorable pitcher's park. They're running a lot of righties out there. I'm not saying you should have any confidence in Trevor Williams, but on the scale of days that you would want to play Trevor Williams, today's pretty far up the list since 1, there's only 4 games, and 2, he is in a good pitcher's park with a team that is running more righties than lefties out there, Adam.
Okay. What about the bats in this game?
So Washington's first in stack score, which is mostly because of how inexpensive they are. They're third in top stack third from the bottom in top stack percentage, 3.6 implied run total. Tough matchup against Perez. Obviously, he's a young pitcher. He's very capable of just blowing up. He's inexperienced, but it's tough to really feel good about getting to the Nats. It's the salaries that stand out, though. The most expensive guy in this lineup on DraftKings is Lane Thomas at 3,700. You have Luis Garcia at 3,600. Keeper Ruiz 35. Every other hitter is 3K or less. That includes Corey Dickerson batting cleanup at 2,200. So very good value stack and not super low in terms of chances of success. Still about an 11% chance of being the top scoring stack since it is only a 4-game slate. Miami on the other side going up against Williams has the better matchup. They're third in top stack percentage. They are second in stack score. So they're pretty cheap as well. Not as cheap as Washington, but still pretty cheap. No Jazz Chisholm obviously makes this a little bit weaker. Arise is expensive. SoRare is expensive. Cooper's up at 4,800. The rest of the lineup is cheap though. So both sides look good for different, or look okay for different reasons. I think I would get to the Miami side first, just because Williams isn't the same level of pitcher as Perez.
Okay. And how would you rank the four sides of the game?
Perez 1, Williams 2, Marlins 3, Nats 4.
Okay, perfect. All right, we made it through 3 games. Larry says Peralta screwed him this week in SoRare. That is, so I say it's a very fun game to play, and I usually think that is the case. It is very frustrating at times, though, when you do have like a starting pitcher, because they only get one game. Like, it's different than NBA, where it's like, yeah, if my guy underperforms, he'll have multiple shots at it, because in NBA you just get your best score is all that matters. In MLB, it's like, man, if your pitcher sucks, it is painful. So it is a fun game, but much like DFS, SoRare can also be a painful game when you just have a player in there who hurts you right away. All right, we are going to take a look at lineup generator now. We've made it through 3 games, so we're making good time here. I want to make sure I can't see my screen. I'm going to refresh this, just make sure that people can see it, because yeah, okay, good, got it up. All right, we're going to take a look at some of the lineups that we're getting here in lineup generator, and I should mention I put it in chat. The link to, you can still get lineup generator for 50% off. So this is less than $4.50 for your first week with lineup generator. It's just $9 after that. It's a fantastic deal, whether you can get it 50% off or not. But when it's $4.50, kind of a no-brainer to take a chance, take a look at lineup generator, because again, these are all plus EV lineups. These are lineups that have been chosen, have been curated. We filtered out the bad lineups. Any lineup you get in lineup generator is going to be a lineup that the stochastic tools have found to be plus EV lineups, which hard to create on your own sometimes, especially in MLB. It's hard to know, like, where do I balance ownership versus projection, that kind of stuff. These lineups have already done that for you. So every lineup that you get in lineup generator, again, is going to be a plus EV lineup according to 10,000, at least 10,000. I don't know if they've done more for this particularly, but at least 10,000 sims run with these lineups. And these are lineups that have all been found to be plus EV. And there's a lot of them, particularly in MLB. There's a lot of different ways to build lineups. So you don't have to worry about, like, am I going to get the same lineup as somebody else using lineup generator? That's not a real concern, because there are just so many different types of lineups that you can build that are all plus EV. But kind of nice to have that security of knowing any lineup you get here is going to be plus EV. Taking a look at this first lineup we have here, we've got Yuri Perez and Taj Bradley as the pitchers. Relatively not particularly high owned. I guess that's kind of the case across the board, though. We don't have any like crazy high ownership for a 4-game slate here.
Yeah, so somebody just mentioned it in chat that he thought ownership seemed a little bit wonky because the total ownership of his cash lineup wasn't as high as he'd expect on a 4-gamer. I think it's just there's not really a ton of like clear-cut great plays today. Like, right. Dylan Cease is coming in at the top at 44%. Tyler Wells is second at 35. I mean, you can only expect so much ownership to go to a $9,200 Tyler Wells. Like maybe Yuri Perez ends up coming in a little bit higher, but even, I mean, that's still a guy that nobody's going to be super confident in at this point. It's just, you have a lot of decent pitchers on the slate and also some not great matchups for those pitchers. This is just sort of a slate where it's just like a lot of stuff projects fine, but not great. So you're just going to see flatter ownership probably.
Yeah, I meant to respond to that. Yeah, I think it's just because ownership is so flat on this slate that the ownership is less than you often see on a 4-game slate. Slim Lancaster says, I don't know much about MLB, so I got the lineup generator earlier this week, and it has already paid for itself. Thanks, Stochastics, for all of your tools. Yeah, this is such a no-brainer tool, particularly if you don't know much about MLB. Even if you do know a lot about MLB, but maybe haven't had the success you're hoping to have in MLB DFS, it's still a very valuable tool.
I might switch to it. Why not?
I've been thinking about switching to just doing lineup generator in like do like 20 max, just take 20 lineups from lineup generator. The problem is I'm usually on shows, so it's like it's easier for me to just go back to what I've done in the past rather than like going through the process. But on days when I don't have shows, I've been thinking about making the switch. And again, this I have pinned it to the top of chat. So if you're in YouTube chat right now, you're going to see the 50% off lineup generator at the top there where I have it pinned. But yeah, all of these just are going to be great lineups. What are we seeing here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5-0 Tampa stack. So it's just a 5-man primary Tampa stack, no secondary stack in this one. Doesn't look like, we've got Tampa stack again. We've got the Tampa stack with Taj Bradley, which again, we talked about, like, that might just be kind of incidental that like you're going to get because it's a 4-game slate. There's just not that many options, but maybe there is just a little bit more EV with stacking your lineup with the pitcher, because if they're doing well, it's more likely that the pitcher is going to get the win. So maybe there is that positive correlation.
Yeah, it's one of those, if it shows up, like I like that it's there. It's not something I go out of my way to get, but certainly doesn't make me like the lineup less.
Yeah, exactly. Double RS, would you play two pitchers from the same game? Yeah, Adam and I both have no issue playing two pitchers from the same game. So I can answer that for Adam because we've answered that question before. Yeah, no issue playing two pitchers in the same game. You give up that win, but like you're still getting strikeouts, all the other stats. You obviously don't have the chance at two wins there is what I mean. But
it would probably be a little bit different if like one starting pitcher from a game was guaranteed a win, but they're not.
Right. Yeah, good point. Like, yeah, very good point. Not oftentimes, even if a pitcher does great, they're still not going to get that win. So it's like you can make that sacrifice. And then there was another question that I wanted to answer here is, and I'm silly question. What is plus EV Jordan Kilwin? That's actually not a silly question at all. We talk about it like it's because it's just something that we're so used to talking about. What is plus EV? And now I'm trying to think what I think it's estimated value is what it actually stands for.
Yeah.
Expected value. Yeah. And it's just over the long term, you would expect a plus EV lineup to make money. It doesn't mean that it's going to make money that day because even the best DFS players in the world playing 150 lineups, they're going to lose more days than they're going to win. That's true of these lineups as well. More often than not, any lineup you play is going to lose money. But over the long run, these are lineups that have been found to be have plus expected value. So they're going to, like, over the course of 10,000 slates, this is a lineup that would win. If you only play plus EV lineups, at least theoretically, in the long run, you should make money. I know, Adam, you might take issue with that. I saw your Roto Tracker post with your top 1%. Way up there and still not finding the success.
I was gonna say at this point, I think plus EV is just something that we tell ourselves exists to make us feel better. But no, I mean it's like I was trying to explain it to my sister earlier because I was talking to her about that post that you're talking about. It basically, like, if let's just, for like a round number, say this lineup has a 10% expected return, and what that's telling you is that if you played today's slate 10,000 or 20,000 or 100,000 times, you would expect this lineup to make you about 10% of your entry, to make you 110% of your entry fee. In one day, most likely it's going to be negative. Like, you're just going to lose because that's how this works. But if you could just repeatedly play this slate over and over and over and over and always play this lineup, you would expect to come out with more money than you went in with.
Yep, that is a great explanation. Yep. So it's just these are good lineups, essentially, is what it comes down to, is that you over the long term, you're expecting to make money. I'm going to save this one, but not necessarily day to day. Like if you buy a lineup generator and like you lose the first day, I would not overreact to that and say it gave me a bad lineup. It just means that on that given day, things didn't work out the way you'd expect them to.
And by the same token, if you buy it and you win that day, should definitely tweet and tell everybody that's the best thing that you've ever seen, because obviously that's going to always happen.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's it's always going to win if you do win.
Yeah.
All right. Second lineup we're looking at here, we've got Dylan Cease and Yuri Perez. A little bit more ownership on these pitchers relative to other pitchers on the slate, but still not like crazy ownership. We get Manuel Margot in here for 7% ownership, James McCann 9%. This is what is this? 4-4-1-2. I think this is 4-4 Tampa Bay and Baltimore stack, and it looks good to me.
I like it.
It's going to look good. It's in the lineup generator. No, I don't think I don't think lineup generator is going to ever give you bats against your pitcher, Adam. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, I was trying to pay attention to that during the show, actually, because I didn't know what the answer to that was, but I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I don't think I have yet seen any examples of bats versus pitcher. All right, and I'm going to save this one as well, although it is on the far end of the ownership scale. This one a little bit less ownership, slightly less in terms of projection. I guess that's largely comes down to the pitchers. That's where you're getting the majority of your ownership anyway. We're getting
turning Cease into Logan Allen takes 20-something% off right there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Looks like a 5-3 Baltimore Miami stack here. Again, Baltimore looking pretty good here. We're getting kind of the top of the order bats here. Lowest we're getting is 6th in any of these bats.
Yeah.
So
I think it looks good. Also that Cease to Allen point, I think is just important for, like, it shows up, like in the lineup generator when you look at how it compares from either a ownership standpoint or a projection standpoint. But it's a question that comes up a lot where people are like, oh, well, like, what total ownership should you cap it at? And like the 164% ownership number really means nothing if you're not comparing it to other lineups. So I'm sure some people can look at that and say, like, oh, that's really popular, or it's not popular or whatever. But it really just comes down to, you're trying to compare, like, as many possible lineups as you can and say like, all right, what are some of the best versions I can get where I'm getting close to the maximum projected points, but a lot less ownership. Like, but less is relative. Like 164 on its face doesn't mean anything, because you also have to keep in mind like the people you aren't playing. You might look at this lineup and say like, oh, it's pretty chalky because you have 22% ownership going to Allen, 29% to Perez. But if you have a 44% owned Cease not in the lineup, you're already different than nearly half the field right there. So
Right.
it's and the lineup generator does it automatically, but it does just kind of reinforce when people ask that question, it's everything's relative. You're comparing to each other.
Right. Which is, again, people ask that question. And one of the reasons that I really like lineup generator is because it does do the balancing for you. So you can kind of see like what kind of ownership range am I looking for? What kind of like across the entire lineup, what am I looking for in terms of ownership? So it's just an easy way to see what good lineups look like in general. All right, I'm not going to go through every single lineup here. Getting a lot of Baltimore, Adam. That's got to be you should use lineup generator on this slate because you can just play your favorite team.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah,
here we've got a James McCann one-off. Looks like this must be a 5-0 stack of Tampa Bay. I'm thinking, yeah, 5-0 stack with Tampa Bay. Logan Allen, Yuri Perez. All right, I'm just going to save a few, discard a couple, save and get to the end. And looks like I saved 18 line. I only discarded 2. And then what you can do in this case, what I would probably do is if you want to make just 20 lineups, what I would probably do is now say, okay, I have 78% Yuri Perez. Maybe I don't want quite that much Yuri Perez. Then you go back to get more lineups. And all right, first one I see is not Yuri Perez, so I'm going to save that one. Second one I see has Yuri Perez, I'll discard because I already have so much. Third one, no Yuri Perez, I'll save that. So now I've got 20 lineups saved, brought down my Yuri Perez exposure just a little bit. And that's, of course, just like you don't obviously always want to do that, but just an example of maybe I want to have less Yuri Perez. I'll go back and find some that don't have him. But now you can see at the end, after you've saved all your lineups, you can see exactly your exposures across all players. You can see the individual lineups and you can export to a CSV that you can then upload into DraftKings. So really cool tool. Highly recommend checking it out if you have not already done so. Again, it is 50% off your first week. So it's less than $4.50 for an entire week. You're not losing much. Even if it doesn't go well for you, what do you have to lose? Check out Lineup Generator. Great tool here for you. All right, Adam, final game of this slate. We've got Cleveland at Chicago White Sox. Logan Allen on the mound for the Guardians. Dylan Cease for the White Sox. Any interest in these pitchers?
Yeah, for sure. Cease coming in highest in top 2 percentage at 40%, 43% projected ownership. So nothing, too crazy there. He hasn't been as good this year as in the past. Still striking out 25.5% of hitters, walking 10%, 4.12 FIP. Most likely turns it around sooner rather than later. Guardians don't have the most strikeouts in their lineup, but they are also missing Jose Ramirez, as we talked about before. Lineup certainly not as strong as usual. The bottom of this order is just flat out bad. Looks really, really good for Cease. 3.5 implied run total for Cleveland. For Logan Allen on the other side, looks like a solid pitching prospect, as we found out last time he pitched. There are 2 Logan Allens that both have pitched or currently do pitch for Cleveland. So I was a little confused when he was pitching the other day, and I thought he was this like journeyman guy that had been up for years. But this is a different one. He's young. He's good. Decent matchup against the White Sox, 4 implied run total. We just talked about it in the lineup generator, pulling about 22 to 24% ownership. Third in top 2 pitcher percentage at about 30%. So he's actually projected to go a little bit under owned here. Looks like a pretty solid option.
Yep. Matthew Bellman, who filled in for you on Tuesday, Adam, says expected value. Sorry, no, he says none of Cole, Strider, Evaldi, Bassett, or Burns got a win last night. Chasing wins is a fool's errand. Yeah, exactly. I think you just got to look at the other things. Wins are you can't really predict wins all that easily. All right, how would you? What's your level of interest in the bats in this Cleveland Chicago game?
Mediocre. Like it's a 4-game slate, but they are the 2 bottom teams in top stack percentage. They're still both around 10%, 10.5% for the White Sox, 9 for Cleveland. Ownership pretty much in line with those numbers, 10% aggregate ownership to Cleveland, 12 to the White Sox. White Sox have the slightly higher top stack or stack score. So low probability in terms of, compared to other teams, but again, still both around 10%. Tampa Bay at the top's only at 16%. So this goes back to what we were just saying about ownership being flat. It's just like so many spots are very, very similar in terms of chances of success. So I don't love taking guys against Cease. I don't love taking guys against Allen, but you are still talking about a 4-game slate where you have a pitcher pulling 45% ownership and another one pulling 25. There's some added value to get into these stacks just because if they do well, you're knocking off, a nice chunk of the field right there. So don't have a lot to say in terms of like, this is why this team looks good, because they don't. But from a game theory standpoint, there's still a case to be made for getting to them. Like, I certainly wouldn't just write these teams off. If you're going through like whatever your process is and Cleveland's showing up or the White Sox are showing up, I wouldn't worry about it. Like, they're fine.
Right. Still places you can get to. All right. How would you rank the 4 sides of this game?
Cease 1, Allen 2, Sox 3, Guardians 4.
Okay. Then we had a couple questions here. Someone wanted to talk about tiers. Someone else just asked if we can touch on FanDuel for a little bit. So I can we can take a look at FanDuel as well, since we got a question there. But Adam, let's start by doing what we do at the end of every show, which is let's start with on DraftKings. If you are, or either side, I guess, if you're just going to 3 stacks in a 3 max contest, which 3 stacks would you like to go to?
So I'm still adjusting some stuff, but on DraftKings right now, it's looking like a good amount of the Mets and then White Sox and Tampa probably.
Okay. 3 favorite arms.
Cease. Actually, I can answer this better. Cease, Allen, Wells are showing up the most for me, but I am pretty flat getting to almost everybody.
Okay, and
I should take that back. I'm getting to Cease and Allen the most, and then other than that, I'm pretty flat.
Okay, Cease and Allen, top 2. All right, who is your home run pick today?
All right, so there's like no left-handed power on the Marlins, so that takes them out. Camden Yards kills right-handed power, so I don't really want to go there against Anderson. Randy Arozarena.
I'm going to go with Mike Trout, who has the highest odds in the top batters tool by 6% here. So I don't always, I usually try to not take just the top, but when it's a 6% gap between our top and home run percentage and number 2, I'm just going to go with Trout, take the easy one.
I almost went Ohtani before I said Arozarena. Wells has had power issues this year. 232 expected ISO to lefties, 220 to righties. Since last year, 211 to righties, 165 to lefties. So Trout and Ohtani both should be grading out as 2 of the best bets.
Okay. Adam, we got a question about FanDuel. Just go over it real quickly, and I'm going to just add to the stream really quick. I'll show our top stacks while we're talking about. Do you have any? Are there any differences for you on FanDuel in terms of like which stacks you'd like to get to?
So typically, you're not going to get too much of a difference in terms of stacks. You're going to see a bigger difference in terms of pitching, but just looking at stack score, it looks pretty similar. Baltimore is at the top here, but everybody's pretty like lumped together. The lowest stack score is Cleveland at 10. Baltimore's at 15. The highest top stack percentage is Tampa Bay at 18. But again, they're more expensive. Cleveland coming in at 8.5%. So that's a little bit lower than on DraftKings. But pretty similar where you're just going to get relatively flat ownership. The Nats, I guess, are coming in as looking particularly underowned, which do with that what you will. I don't really want to play the Nats, but they are getting the least ownership on the slate.
Okay. Sounds good. What about pitchers? Any difference for you in terms of pitchers?
From a pitcher standpoint, it gets kind of interesting just because you can find bigger ownership gaps. Like on DraftKings, with the exception of Cease, a lot of the projected ownership is flat since you have to roster 2 pitchers. But on FanDuel, you're just going to see Cease pulling so much of that ownership. So he's projected for 41%. That means you can get to a $9,400 Logan Allen at only 8 or 9% ownership. That's actually kind of appealing. Yuri Perez and Tyler Wells also, 1/3 the ownership of Cease instead of being like 1/2 or even closer. So that the Perez, Allen, Wells plays on FanDuel just become like they're good plays for a different reason. On DraftKings, it's you have to roster 2 pitchers and they look like some of the best pitching options on the slate. On FanDuel, it's more from a contrarian angle because so much of the field is going to go to Dylan Cease that you can kind of just get one of the next tier of pitchers at a fraction of the ownership.
Yep. All right. I think that was
say something nice about Trevor Williams. He's good against right-handed hitters.
All right. Good job. You that was easy for you. All right. Let's do tiers real quick. Are you prepared at all to talk about tiers? Or if I give you the names, do you think you'll have opinions here?
If you give me the names, I can do it.
All right. Tier 1 is Cedric Mullins, Mike
Out.
Trout, so not in the lineup. Yeah. So it's just Mike Trout, Jorge Mateo, and Shohei Ohtani.
Trout. I mean, how the hell is Mateo in there?
In the 7 hole.
Yeah, I mean, I love the guy, but come on. I'll go Ohtani, but Trout obviously is also fine.
Yeah. All right. Ohtani number 1 there.
You can very much guarantee that you're contrarian if you go Mateo.
Yeah, that is true. Wait, Wander Franco also out today. So okay, I see. Tier 2, we have Wander Franco out, Randy Arozarena, Jorge Soler, Adley Rutschman, Luis Arias.
So Arozarena, Soler, Arias, Rutschman.
Yep.
Arozarena.
All right. Tier 3 is between Josh Lowe, Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, Brandon Lau, Santander, Anthony Santander, and is it Garrett Cooper? Did I get the Lowe and Lau right there?
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's either Alonso or Lau. Probably Lau.
All right, we're going Brandon Lau in tier 3. Tier 4, Moncada not starting today, so we've got Ryan Mountcastle, Hunter Renfroe, Stephen Kwan, Brandon Nimmo, Tim Anderson, Andre Jimenez.
I think I like Renfroe.
All right, Renfroe against Wells in the 4 hole. All right, for tier 4. Tier 5, we've got Taylor Walls, Harold Ramirez, Austin Hayes, Brandon Drury, Ward and Marte both out here, so lowers the player pool here. Gunnar Henderson and Jeff McNeil.
I feel like you kind of just have to go with the leadoff hitter from the team with the highest run total in the slate.
Yep, makes sense.
Which could have been an argument for Mountcastle in the last tier too. I just like the home run spot for Renfroe.
Okay. Wait, is Renfroe leading off?
No, he's hitting 4.
No, sorry. Yeah, you're talking about the last year. I got you. Okay. All right. I was like, I thought you were talking about Austin Hayes. Okay.
Yeah. No, I was talking about Hayes, but then I was saying like the actual best answer in the last year might have been Mountcastle. But
yeah. I follow now. I just got confused.
I just heard Renfroe and immediately thought home run against Wells.
Yep. All right. So you like Renfroe in tier 4, Austin Hayes in tier 5 for Adam. And then finally, tier 6, we've got Luis Robert, Logan Thomas, Luke Raley, Ahmed Rosario, Luis Garcia, Christian Betancourt, Yasmani Grandal, and Keibert Ruiz.
I'm not gonna lie, I missed most of that tier.
All right, Luis Robert seems like the one to me, but
I'll just say that was the one that stood out, but I thought I might have missed one.
All right, so it's Luis Robert, Lane Thomas, Luke Raley, Ahmed Rosario, Luis Garcia, Christian Betancourt, Yasmani Grandal, and Keibert Ruiz.
Yeah, I think it's Robert.
Okay, so that is tiers for us. We've got all the way through tiers. Did you guys have any other questions for us? We'll try and get out of here before 12:30 Eastern, but happy to stick around and answer some questions in the meantime. I did want to ask you about John Morant. So did you see JJ Redick's response to all the John Morant backlash at all?
No, I didn't.
Okay. He was basically saying like a lot of other people have done a lot worse stuff and not really been punished for it. He thinks that people calling for like half season suspension for John Morant is overkill. He's only 23, hasn't, as far as we know, committed any crimes. At least he's been cleared of any crimes that people are alleging, at least. So Trey Makel says JJ is. I love JJ Redick. I think he's like one of the better commentators out there. So I disagree with you there. But what do you think about that? Do you think that half a season suspension for John Morant is too long?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. I understand why like the Grizzlies / the NBA are going to come down hard on him. Like it's bad for their image. It's bad marketing, all that. Clearly, I think he's making really dumb decisions. But like also he didn't do anything. Like I don't think like a half season seems like a lot. There needs to be something though where like they get through to him, because the other thing, the way I view it too is obviously it's bad for the image. There's some liability aspect too, where if the Grizzlies and the NBA were just to be like, like look the other way and continue ignoring it, and then like God forbid something does happen 3 years down the road where Morant's involved in something, like that ends up coming back on them looking so bad where you just ignored this. And like the only reason I even thought of that was when the Wizards had the issue with Gilbert Arenas and Javaris Crittenton. Several years later, Javaris Crittenton ended up being convicted of murder.
Right.
So like if you were to have some situation like that with Morant, and you could just look back and be like, oh yeah, well, he just kept doing, all this dumb shit, and the league just kept ignoring it. Like, it makes them look even worse. So like I get it from that angle as well. But it's like, I don't know what the appropriate punishment is, because
Right.
like at the end of the day, he didn't do anything other
Yeah.
than like just look very dumb.
Right. Like he definitely, I'm sure he broke his contract. Like there are things in your
Right.
contract, like there's a clause that you can't make the league look bad, essentially. And sure, he broke that for sure. But like half a season does seem too much to me, even though I mean it's tough because of the history, because he did come out and say, like, I learned my lesson, like I'm
Right.
changed, I understand. And then he comes out and does the same shit again. It's like, what are you doing, man?
Right.
Uh
But it just comes back to, like, at the end of the day, like, are we really suspending guys half a season because they're idiots?
right.
Like I get, again, like, it looks bad for the brand, but um also like it's not that big of a deal either. So like yeah, I don't know. I kind of like I think the whole situation's dumb and obviously very easily preventable, but um yeah, like half season seems like a lot.
Tommy David Walker thinks that he deserves it. He says he totally did something. He also says, can CEOs, presidents of companies do this? No, this is a totally different situation, though. He's not the CEO or president of company. He's one of
Right.
many players, and like he's got talent. He's got the talent to draw a crowd. So like that's all they really care about is making money for the most part, and limiting liability. As Adam said, that was really well said. Talking about I didn't really thought about the league liability aspect, but that is actually a really good point and something that they need to be considering in making the decisions. But yeah, it's I don't know. I thought it was an interesting take from JJ. Other people in chat very much disagreeing with JJ's take, but I thought, it does seem like a bit much for a
Yeah.
23-year-old to
It's
do something that wasn't actually a crime. Half a season does seem like a bit much.
Yeah, it's an issue where I pretty much am just coming down middle ground on everything. Like, I think that most of the takes that are extreme one way or the other are just kind of insane.
Yeah, agreed. Uh, Not having any other no other questions here. I'm trying to remember if we had any earlier that I missed. I don't that we skipped over. I don't think that we skipped over any questions. I think we got through the
It's
four
not the
games.
same as the CEO. Like, Adam Silver would be the same as the CEO.
Right. And you don't see Adam Silver doing it because he would be just removed if you
Right.
were doing something like this. Because nobody goes to see Adam Silver. Like
Right. I'll
that's
say also Adam Silver is more replaceable than John Morant.
yeah, exactly. Um Yeah. All right. Not seeing any questions. So it's time to just talk about my upcoming softball game, Adam. Last week we didn't talk about. I didn't tell you that on the day of the game, we got informed that we went from playing one of the worst teams in the league. They replaced them with the best team in the league by far. We had to play the best team last week. They had in their first two games, they put up 44 runs and gave up 4 runs total. So I was like, fuck. And they did not change the schedule at all. So we now have to play them 3 times instead of 2 times. They didn't like
Oh,
switch
that's
things
fun.
around. Yeah. So I'm like, this is just bullshit. We did lose to them. We actually kept it fairly competitive, but ultimately lost to the best team in the league. I don't even know who we're playing tonight. Hopefully it's not them again. But still, it's we also lost. I just learned today one of our players pulled a tendon in his arm, a bicep tendon, I believe is what he said he pulled, and he's going to be out for the season, which sucks just from like a playing standpoint, but it's also like these are friends that I basically only see during softball season. Like
Oh
that's like
yeah.
the weird thing with my softball friends is like we become friends because we've been playing softball for so long, but it's like we were friends for like 3 months. And then like I saw these guys a couple times, last winter. So it's not completely that way, but it's like I hear that he pulled his bicep tendon. I'm like, oh man, that sucks. I'm not going to see him for a year. But it's like
Right.
it doesn't have to be that case. It's just kind of the way things go there. Sportsviz tells me to get wrecked. I'm not sure what that's about exactly. I don't know if he's talking about my softball. He's talking about John Morant. I don't know. Just talking about shit because we got a few more minutes to fill. I'm sure Adam wants to get his lineups in. Does anybody have any other questions, things you want to talk about? I know we've got a Lowell's episode coming up. Should be an interesting one. I think they've got a guest. Softball. He's saying get wrecked. And why are you cheering against me in softball, Sportsviz? Come on. I'm the pitcher. I'm needed. I'm needed out there. Actually had a probably my second extra base hit of my career last week, so that was good. I had
Nice.
2 like actual real hits that weren't like just errors, and one of them an actual extra base hit. That's one of my teammates told me it could have been a triple if I really legged it out, but I'm not legging out a triple. Come on now.
I went
Um,
back what Tuesday I went and watched my high school play our rival in the playoffs, and it really reminded me how much I miss playing baseball.
I'm sure there are good softball leagues there in Baltimore. I would imagine.
Probably. I've never played them just because it becomes a pain in the ass. Like, with work.
Right. Do you think you would enjoy softball or just
Yeah,
baseball?
I mean, I've played like, I mean, years ago, I played with friends a little bit. I enjoy it. Like it's competitive and similar enough. I wish I had just kind of not blown out my arm and could like play adult league baseball, but
Right. Yeah. Softball's a good time. Highly recommend it. All right. I feel like there was something else that I wanted to respond to, but then I completely forgot what it was. So I think that we are good. Um, yeah. Paul Me says, I don't know how you were able to make lineups while doing the show. Got some serious block it out skills. It's tough for me. I gotta be honest. I'm not very good at making lineups.
I'm bad at it.
I'm much better at it when I'm not on a show, which is why we'll probably get out of here a few minutes early and try to get our we've got 10 minutes until lock still. We're going to get out of here before lock so that Adam and I can actually make our lineups. But again, happy to answer any other questions if you have them. I believe we do still have this offer going for BetMGM. So I should mention that if you are in a legal betting state, not already signed up for BetMGM for whatever reason, you really should sign up while we've still got this offer going. You can get 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum and your first bet covered up to $1,000 paid back in bet credits when you sign up, make a deposit, and make your first paid wager at BetMGM. Click the link in the description of this video to take advantage of your offer. Again, if your first bet loses, you'll get paid back in site credits equal to the amount of that first wager up to $1,000. Of course, the legal age for gambling in most states is 21 plus. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. I think that we are about ready to get out of here, Adam. I should remind you guys, if you have not done so, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, hit the notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. At the very least, please do like the video. That's the most important one. Really does help us out a lot if you like the video. Makes it so that our videos get seen going forward. We can continue doing free videos for you. So please do like the video if you haven't already. I know I forget to ask that multiple times throughout the show. So wanted to make sure I do that before we get out of here. I don't see any other questions or anything. So thank you guys so much for hanging out. Adam, do you have any final thoughts?
Good luck on the slate. I think it's a slate where a lot of your lineups are probably going to make you feel pretty uncomfortable because there's just like a lot of mediocrity, but should be a pretty fun one from tournaments.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this slate, getting some lineups in. Yeah, again, like the video if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, and good luck this afternoon.